Assalamualaikum Bapak Ibu. Kira-kira 2 menit lagi kita akan mulai acara. Selamat datang di webinar, international webinar di Bonjol Padang. Semoga kita semua selalu dalam keadaan sehat.
Zulfis, suaranya kecil Pak.
Baik, Ustaz Hasbi, sudah bagus suaranya?
Sudah bagus.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak Rector UIN Imam Bonjol yang kami muliakan. Your Excellency, Rector of State Islamic University Imam Bonjol Padang. Yang terhormat, Bapak Dr. Said Yüce, selaku pimpinan Dewan Eksekutif Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture, Turkey. Honorable Dr. Said Yüce is Chairman of the Executive Board Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture, Turkey. Bapak-bapak narasumber yang kami hormati, beserta seluruh peserta international webinar yang berbahagia. Honorable speakers, ladies and gentlemen, all participants of this international webinar. Dengan memohon rahmat Allah yang Maha Kuasa, diiringi salawat dan salam kepada Nabi Muhammad SAW, hari ini, Selasa tanggal 26 Januari tahun 2021, acara pembukaan International Webinar on Islam and Civilization kerjasama UIN Imam Bonjol Padang dengan Yayasan Semesta dan Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture dimulai dengan membaca Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. By asking for the grace of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala and salutation and greetings to the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, today, Tuesday, January 26, 2021, the opening ceremony of an international webinar on Islam and civilization in collaboration among State Islamic University Imam Bonjol Padang, Semesta Foundation, and Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture is started by reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Mengawali acara ini, marilah kita dengarkan pembacaan ayat suci Al-Quran oleh Saudara Riyadil Jannatan. For the beginning this opening ceremony, let's listen to the recitation of the Quran by Riyadil Jannatan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل أرأيتم إن كان من عند الله ثم كفرتم به من أضل في شقاق بعيد. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق. أولم يكف بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد. ألا إنهم في مرية من لقاء ربهم. ألا إنه بكل شيء محيط. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قيل لكم تفسحوا في المجالس فافسحوا يفسح الله لكم. فانشزوا يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم يرفع الله الذين آمنوا منكم والذين أوتوا العلم درجات والله بما تعملون خبير صدق الله العظيم. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hadirin yang kami muliakan, acara selanjutnya menyanyikan lagu Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dimohon mengambil sikap sempurna. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the next event is National Anthem of Indonesia Raya. Ladies and gentlemen, please take the good position. Hadirin hadirat yang berbahagia, sebelum memasuki sesi seminar, mari kita dengarkan sambutan Rektor UIN Imam Bonjol Padang, sekaligus presentasi sebagai Prof. Putra Wirman MA. Disilakan. Ladies and gentlemen, before continuing the seminar session, let's listen to the speech of the Rector of State Islamic University, Imam Bonjol Padang, as well as a presentation as a keynote speaker. Your Excellency, Professor Dr. Putra Wirman MM, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wa bihi nasta'inu ala murid dunya waddin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa nabiyuhu wa rasuluhu la nabiyya ba'dah. Amma ba'du. Honorable speakers, especially for Dr. Said Yüce, Professor Dr. Alparslan Açıkgenç, Associate Professor Dr. Ahmet Yildiz, and Associate Professor Dr. Zaim Rais, MA. I apologize for some mistake spelling the name. Honorable Vice Rectors, Deans and Vice Deans, lecturers, staff, and all my students, all participants in this international webinar, either from any institution in Indonesia or from overseas. Today, we will discuss about the very important theme, Islam and civilization in post-COVID-19 pandemic. I would like to thank especially to Yayasan Semesta and Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture, because we could arrange this international webinar. Also, thanks to the head and staff of Institute for Research and Community Service, LPPM, UIN Imam Bonjol, Padang, head and staff of library, and to all committee members who have organized this seminar well. COVID-19 is a pandemic that has hit almost the entire world, has provided enormous changes in various aspects of human life. These changes include social, cultural, economic, science, religious, and spirituality. The existence of maintaining social and physical distance causes major changes in social life. Social change, in turn, also has an influence on cultural change. Economic patterns in various countries and levels of life have become abnormal. In the context of science itself, COVID-19 presents a very big challenge to scientists, especially from the health sector. These challenges include COVID-19 itself, the pattern of distribution, cure and vaccine discovery, various problems and weaknesses in facing the crisis due to COVID-19 indicate weaknesses in the education system and development of science and technology. The COVID-19 crisis can be a trigger for the development of science and technology, supported by policyholders and the public. The synergy of religion, science, and government will provide greater benefits and results to overcome the impact and problems of COVID-19. Islam basically already has concepts and teachings on how its people respond to a pandemic. The development of science and Islamic civilization has historically proved a major role and contribution, including in the health sector. In the context of the current pandemic, Muslims' role and contribution, especially in vaccine discovery, is almost non-existent. China, Germany, America, France, and Canada are the countries that produce vaccines. These countries are not from Islamic countries or those not from a Muslim majority population. The development and existence of science are very important in a civilization. The advancement of a civilization is largely determined by the level of scientific development. Early Islamic civilization has proven that science gets serious and special attention in society. The inspiration and encouragement of Islamic teachings to develop science and technology is beyond doubt. In addition, many Muslim scholars, thinkers, and scientists have formulated their concept and thought related to the importance of developing science and technology in Islamic civilization, such as Said Nursi. In this context, an international seminar on Islam and civilization after the COVID-19 pandemic is an effort to find, explore, and formulate various issues, insight, and perspective on the importance of developing science in Islamic civilization so that Muslims have a real role and contribution in facing the challenges of the pandemic and after the COVID-19 pandemic, especially Turkey and Indonesia. Said Nursi, as an ulama, philosopher, and Sufi, is one of the great people who has serious concern on Islamic civilization. There are a lot of books written by Said Nursi. So, in this occasion, I would like to launch the Said Nursi Corner at UIN Imam Bonjol, Padang. Hopefully, this Said Nursi Corner could give many benefits for students, lecturers, and whoever wants to understand and deepen Said Nursi's thought, ideas, and morality, and so on. I believe that this corner is very important for developing Islamic civilization in the world now and future. Last but not least, let's start and open this international webinar on Islam and civilization in post-COVID-19 pandemic by reciting Basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before closing my speech, I would like to thank more to Yayasan Semesta and Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture. I hope we can plan, organize, and extend this cooperation in order to get many benefits, not only for our institution, but also for Islamic civilization now in future. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hadirin yang kami hormati. Selanjutnya, kami mohon sambutan Ketua Dewan Eksekutif Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture kepada Bapak Dr. Said Yüce disilahkan. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we ask for opening speech of the Chairman of the Executive Board Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture. Dear Dr. Said Yüce is invited.
Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullah.
Aleykümselam ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuhu.
İstanbul'dan, Türkiye'den binler selam bütün Endonezya'daki kardeşlerimize.
Beliau menyampaikan salam dari Istanbul untuk semua saudara yang ada di Indonesia.
İnşallah bu dünyanın üzerinden Covid hastalığı bir an önce kalkar. Yüz yüze görüşürüz, geliriz Endonezya'da, Jakarta'da. Siz de İstanbul'a gelirsiniz. Mücahin görüşürüz inşallah.
Semoga pandemi Covid ini segera berakhir dan bisa kita ketemu, baik kami datang ke Indonesia atau Pak Rector beserta para peserta di sini bisa datang ke Turki, bisa bertatap muka lagi.
Üniversitenin
on this occasion, I share my thoughts in terms of science, references to Islamic civilization and its relation to Western civilization in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Please remember the question at the beginning of the pandemic. The question was this: who will develop the vaccine for the COVID-19? When this question asked, people look at where? To the Muslim world, scientific community in the Muslim world, or all over the world, or the Western scientific community. This is a question that needs to be addressed by we, all Muslims. Why we, in fact, we looked at for the help of the Western scientific community, because most believe that they can develop such a vaccine for the COVID-19. But the question is why? Of course, this is an indication of the whole story of the evolution of the Western civilization in the context of other civilizations. So please keep this question in mind, and we'll proceed now. The context that we find ourselves in during and after this COVID-19 pandemic. This pandemic, in the first place, led to us, to all humanity, to deeply feel the ontological insecurity, because we felt hopeless. What can we do, against this pandemic? How can we deal with this pandemic? And can we develop a cure for this pandemic? So it relieved us of this sense of ontological security, which we Muslims take it from our belief to Allah, which means Imam, our connection with Allah, our basic, source of ontological security. And thanks to this, of course, we are not hopeless. We haven't been hopeless, but we find difficult condition because we also get impacted by the negative impacts of this, COVID-19. But unfortunately, couldn't provide a social, moral, and of course, medical context to this, challenge, let's say. I will first begin with a metaphor from the Bible. In in order to comprehend better the context, some of you may know that there are four horsemen of the apocalypse, but I made it into a three horsemen of the apocalypse, which represents, it's a metaphor, which represents wars, famine, and diseases, especially contagious diseases that threatens the survival of all humanity. We find ourselves in a condition of, bare existence. Before what? Reflection, before wars, because wars destroys our all tools and frameworks of understandings to deal with our material and spiritual problems. So it ends our lives, and especially the lives of the innocent and all the civilizational, products by human community. So war is the most important, threat or challenge before us. The second one is the famine. And the famine is basically in today's world is the consequence of the unjust distribution of the sources. It's not because of that we do not have necessary sources to end the famine in the world, but unfortunately, as Nursi will report, because of the unobserving the obligation of zakat and because of because we do not observe the banning on interest, and usually we have this unjust distribution of the earth sources. So while some are starved, as in Yemen and in Africa and in some other places, some part of the humanity, are obsessed with obesity. So this is a question of justice, and Cyprus expresses just the closing of these two doors in order to achieve a just distribution of sources. The first one refers to the obliging zakat. He expresses this in his words, quote unquote, "So long as I am full, what is it to me if others die of hunger?" That's not humanity. Humanity needs needs a heart, a warm heart to welcome other people, which means civilization. And this requires to think of others as you think yourself, and you show this as in the form of zakah. And the second one is represented in the saying that you are so that I can eat. This is a kind of exploitation caused by the existence of interests that are not, that are not, kind of, the result of your work. It is just because you have a capital, you earn from that capital. That's not just division of kind of sources, interests. And the third one is the contagious diseases like the COVID-19. And this is an endless cycle, seems to be. And the modern Western civilization, which Cyprus calls low civilization, or a low civilization, yet because of it's a worldly civilization, it just addresses worldly needs of humanity. That's why it is a civilization. You cannot disregard this, you cannot ignore this, you cannot reject this, you cannot negate this fact. But it's a low civilization because it's based on just human human intellect, and it is only interested in our daily, in our worldly existence. So the modern civilization, unfortunately, has civil wars, nuclear capability of nuclear wars, and we have, of course, unfortunately, global warming and environmental problems. We limited the space allocated other creatures, animals and other creatures to live on living space, and we just, conquest their living spaces. So we are in constant war, unfortunately, against ourselves, against other human beings, against the right to existence of other creatures, and so unfortunately wars are going on. Famine, interestingly enough, that can be cured by the present potential of the modern science, which we have, genetically modified foods. So we need an ample sources in terms of, we have ample sources in terms of, producing things that will be enough for all the humanity, but unfortunately we have famine because of this injustice distribution of resources. So the modern Western civilization couldn't find a cure for the famine, unfortunately. Diseases, coming to the disease, as we see, we have a partial capability of resolving the consequences of especially contagious diseases. Remember, in 1918, at the end of the First World War, we had a called contagious diseases, Spanish flu, which impacted 1/3 of the whole human population, and around 100 million people died. It was a big, pandemic, more than COVID-19, but COVID-19 already, impacted more than 100 million people, and we have more than 2 million people dead already. It is also a big, pandemic, COVID-19. But diseases are partly, of course, cured by the modern medicine, but still we have a big challenge. So in terms of this big challenge to our human existence or survival, their survival, the challenges are going on, the challenge of war, the challenge of famine, and the partly challenge of diseases still going on in this present world. So when Yüce refers to these three, challenges as the severe needs, tendency towards wise anticipation, and illnesses and deaths. This materialistic civilization couldn't solve these problems, although it represented a big challenge by claiming that it will bring order and progress to all humanity, and it will solve all the problems of the humanity, and will establish a paradise, a worldly paradise here in this life. But of course, the challenges are still before us, and the Western civilization couldn't meet these challenges as it claimed. So what it created impact, as we see in the first scenes of the COVID-19 in Italy, in Spanish, big panic, a prioritization of humans in terms of getting treatment. So it was a kind of state of panic to reach the necessary sources, irregardless of any other person. So it was a kind of homo lupus, human beings are not, the enemy or wolf to others, but in fact, this state remembered us as if human beings are wolves to other human beings. So this was not, unfortunately, a scene that we remember as a good indication of the present civilization. No, it was a symptom of crisis. So modern civilization, in fact, has a deep rupture from the heavenly religions, especially the Islamic Wahi. It rejected it, and in fact, unfortunately, it took it as its main adversary, as expressed by the during the 1990s. by the Samuel Huntington's thesis of clash of civilizations. This was an unfortunate thesis because we live in an interconnected and interdependent world, and we as human beings need to collaborate with each other in order to have a better life. And but unfortunately, this thesis took Islam as its basic adversary and defined as the Islam is bleeding. Its borders are bleeding, so Muslims do not have something to present to humanity. These are unfortunate theses, suggested by Huntington, and unfortunately now we have a deceitful representation of Muslims in the Western world. But this Bediüzzaman refers to this Western civilization by a reference to the two world wars and other regional wars and the unjust distribution of sources, its impoverishment of humanity by increasing its needs, going beyond the basic needs such as shelter, eating and drinking, and clothing, but by amplifying human needs, it led to the impoverishment of all humans. So all humans are in constant struggle in order to meet this unreal, unjustified needs, and this is an endless struggle, a kind of closed, vicious circle, hellish torment in the saying of Said Nursi. So Islam, in this respect, doesn't questions all the basic stones of this worldly civilization. Other questions that I will just refer to it and test it in the context of this COVID-19, post-COVID-19 pandemic, in the form of questions. We have unfortunately political despotism that are making use of this state of panic, impotency, by exploiting the mode of survival as a bare mode of survival in order to create and continue and endure its political despotism. This is a kind of use of state of emergency by saying people that you are in a state of bare survival, so it suffices to you that you continue to exist, so accept this political despotism. Of course, increasing human greed due to the increasing consumerism, vicious cycle, environmental exploitation, lack of compassion, as you see in the panic scenes in the beginning of the COVID-19, and of course, a destructive selfishness that cannot be reconciled with the world civilization. Civilization requires other regarding conception of life. You are not alone. You share this life with your human fellows. So we need an other regarding conception of life. But what we observe here is the destructive selfishness reflected in the number of vaccines, ordered by some powerful rich nations, while they ordered four times, 5 times more more than their real needs, while other, unfortunately, poor countries do not have any access to vaccine. So this is a kind of reflection of a destructive selfishness. Of course, hedonism it is going on. this Western civilization in its present form rejects by our biological sex. It makes a social contract. It is a sexless civilization for the first time in human history. It makes being manhood or womanhood meaningless, and this is an unfortunate, mix of human existence, and it is just, a hellish situation. Unfortunately, the result is, yes, homo homini lupus. It is a state of natural war, putting man against other men, and in the end, we humans find ourselves as lonely beings. Of course, this loneliness may lead to contemplation, te'ammül, tefekkür. This is a good opportunity for us during and after this pandemic to think of our the state of human existence. Why are we here? What are we doing? And where are we going? These are the basic questions of our existence here in this world, and we need to go deeper and deeper. And I think the post-COVID-19 pandemic lead us to such a state of thinking and hopefully leading us to a better state of humanity. Are you believe me? I don't know how much I have, how much time I have, but I want to briefly, refer to the comparison of Nursi, the essentials, the foundations of Islamic civilization vis-a-vis the Western civilization, just in headlines. Do you have time? If it's okay, I will go down. Okay, I don't have any answer, but I will go down there. We have no problem in terms of time, it seems. Bediüzzaman calls Islamic civilization based on Huda, that is the right path, the right divine path, versus the low civilization of Western modernity based on the tiny human intellect, but which it claims that it will solve all the questions and problems of humanity. In terms of, the basis of their mainstay, their source of support, the Western civilization is based on sheer power, force, while Muslim civilizations preach truth, right, as the basis of human support or existence. The results comes as aggression and accord from the power-based understanding, and justice and balance from right, truth-based understanding, which we put it in such formulation. Is it might is right or right is might? Just the opposite things. The second one, the Western civilization is just based on material interests, while Islamic conception of civic life is based on virtue. The interest-based civilization breeds fight and collision, because you cannot, have a just sharing of benefits in terms of its sources and results, fruits. So you end up with collision and fight. While Islamic civilization preaches first solidarity and mutual attraction. If you have understanding. The third pillar is what governs our life. The basic principle of life in this Western civilization is basically conflict, and it leads to, you know, continuous rivalry, strife over resources and rewards. Islamic civilization is based on mutual assistance to one another, and so cooperation. The Western civilization creates or presents as nationalism in the form of, you know, negating others in terms of, you know, citizenship, in terms of national bondage. If you belong to my nation, then you have this right and blah blah blah. If you do not have my nationality, then you mean nothing. As we see in the unfortunate migration of Syrian refugees in the Aegean Sea. Remember all those scenes? They just, you know, reject refugees because you, refugees, do not belong to us because you have a different nationality. You are not from us. Islamic understanding of civilization presents religion, sharing the same country, or patriotism, and other, you know, not class-based, but, you know, occupational solidarity as the legitimate bonds that bringing people together. So, as a human being, yes. As a fellow Muslim, yes. As a fellow country people, yes. We share many things more than sharing just one nationality. And the last, you know, pillar in terms of comparing these two civilizations is the Western law civilization, worldly civilization, aims at just satisfying the appetites of the soul and amplifying human needs through the capitalistic means, while Islam provides human beings to be for human perfection in terms of his both worldly being and in terms of course, attaining the quality or good quality for the eternal life or the hereafter. So we see all this comparison, and the Zaman's conclusion is this. Present day law civilization will change its form. Its system will fall apart, and then Islamic civilization will emerge. So, going back to the first question that I posed in terms of developing a vaccine, yes, Western civilization has its merits, but it is a material civilization. So this material civilization need to be turned upside down and relieved of its materialistic creeds and put on an Islamic perspective. So this an Islamic conception of civilization doesn't reject or ignore or disregard the merits of the Western civilization, but in terms of its ontology and epistemology, it is very problematical. So we need to relieve of all this, relieve of all these aspects and put it on its right foot, you know. And this is to provide an Islamic perspective, moral perspective that will provide for human needs in terms of famine, wars, diseases, just, you know, distribution of humanness in this world, thanks to its, you know, equalizing and justice-based perspective that makes human with brothers with each other, not wolves to each other. We have the examples of this in history. We have the partial examples of this in today's world, and we hope that thanks to the the light provided by the Islamic Sharia. We hope that the present low civilization will change its form, and by changing its form, it will based on morality that will provide unity to our ideas, tawheed to our ideas, and the right path and integrity to our behaviors, So Nursi's prescription is this, unity to ideas and integrity and right path to life. So before having political power, before having a low power, you need to have an exemplary morality which will dictate you to behave in the right path. In order to have this morality, you need to have a deep, sound Imam, connection to Allah that will motivate you, your conscience, to behave in the right way as prescribed by the Islamic Sharia. They are in complete correspondence with one another. Human Putra, human creation, and the universe around us. Of course, the world and work of Almighty Allah represents an equilibrium for us. So if we comply with all this and precedes first Iman, then morality, will hopefully have a political legal order that will reflect rahmah, compassion for all humanity. And I think the post-COVID-19 process will ask these questions. Where are we going? So we need to ask this question. All human beings, all together, we are human beings here. What are we doing? How we met this challenge? Does it, fit us as human beings or not? Then we are in the same, ship. We need to direct this ship together, and we have a right guidance. We need to have a right guidance in order to go our, destination. And I think Islam, with its sound base of morality, with its justice-based civil perspective, civilized perspective, gives us this direction, at least gives us the correct questions. If you ask the correct questions, we human beings are in constant search of, of course, the right thing, what is right thing for us. That's why in the verse of the Quran, human beings are mukarram creatures, beings. So we need to be worth of this ikram and going on our, search for the truth. I want to start here, and if there are any question, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Ahmet Yildiz. And I think there are many points from Professor Ahmet Yildiz about the Islamic civilization. Yeah. He said that Islamic civilization is high civilization. Yeah. I think it is very interesting. And the important thing is morality based on Iman, Islam. Okay. Because of most of participants are students, I think some Indonesian in bahasa Indonesia. Jadi beliau tadi Profesor Ahmet Yildiz menjelaskan tentang poin penting yang penting bisa kita tangkap adalah bagaimana peradaban Islam itu sebagai peradaban yang tinggi jika dibandingkan dengan peradaban Barat yang memiliki banyak sekali kelemahan, hedonisme, segala macamnya, termasuk konsep ateisme yang beliau jelaskan tadi. Dan yang lebih penting dari itu, peradaban Islam itu didasari harus atas moralitas. Ya. Posisi moralitas itu adalah segala-galanya yang lebih utama, dan tentu saja moralitas yang didasari oleh iman. Dan beliau juga mengutip beberapa pemikiran konsep dari Said Nursi. Okay, next, the next speaker is Profesor Alparslan Açıkgenç. Yeah, Professor Alparslan is here. Okay, please, time for yours, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I will try to share the screen. Yes, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Now, I would like to say a few things also concerning the present situation and its relation to civilizations, and especially how this was discussed in the Rasail, the main points and the main issues, and then inshallah I will finish. Now, of course, our main source is always the Quran. As you know, in this thing, the most relevant verses in Surah Al-Baqarah, everybody knows this, of course. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ أُولَٰئِكَ عَلَيْهِمْ صَلَوَاتٌ مِّن رَّبِّهِمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُهْتَدُونَ. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. Now, in these verses, I am sure everybody already knows the meaning, but I would like to still read the English translation. We shall test you with something of fear and hunger, some loss in goods or lives or the fruits of your toil, whatever you have gained, in other words. But give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere, who say when afflicted with calamity, as perhaps the situation today, to Allah we belong and to Him is our return. So they are those on whom descend blessings from Allah and mercy, and they are the ones that receive guidance. Now, as this is the case, there are some background things that we need to discuss also. You know, as human beings, as you know, we cannot stop but raise certain questions. Why and how, when, and so on. The answer that we find for such things, very briefly, of course, there are many points in the Rasail that are related to this issue, but perhaps the following quotation would be sufficient. There are two kinds of ibadah, the worship, as you know. The first is the active ibadah, such as the 5 daily prayers or the act of supplication, dua, that we do. So this is the common one. Usually when we say ibadah, these are the things that come to our mind. But the second one, that Ustaz Nursi, he calls it passive kind, such as being patient in the face of illness or adversity. namely the problems that we face in life. It is by means of this second kind of worship that people come to realize their weakness. So that means it also has a purpose, you know, these things. So the most important thing to realize is our weakness. So the illness or adversity pushes the afflicted to beg the all-compassionate Creator for some kind of resolution. It's an opportunity for them to take refuge in Him and to offer up worship that is sincere and untainted by hypocrisy. In fact, there is a sound tradition, hadith, which states that a life passed in illness is counted as a life passed in worship, so long as it is the life of a believer, and on condition that he or she does not complain about God. It has been established by sound tradition again, that another hadith, that also by those who are able to uncover the realities of creation, that if a believer is ill, a single minute of illness becomes the equivalent of an hours of worship, so long as he or she is completely patient and thankful. And for certain spiritually perfected individuals, a minute of illness will be counted as the equivalent of a whole days of worship. So these are the 2 points that are brought here. Under these conditions, as you probably notice that all of these are attitudes actually, as far as human beings are concerned. But the question that I would like to raise is, how is this attitude reflected on civilization? The civilization of the persons. Here, 2 things are effective in this phenomenon. Now, number 1 is spirituality, obviously. As you notice, there is an emphasis on the ibadah, and that is, it is bestowed upon human beings. Namely, we do have an ability for spirituality. Now, the second thing is the culture, as it represents civilization within society. Why is that so? Now, it's because both civilization and culture actually are human achievements. As such, we can consider them to be manifestation of human inner world within the society. So the concept of inner world, that becomes a central issue here. What do we mean by it? What is inner world? Obviously, that is something that is related to human nature. And there are verses in the Quran also concerning human nature. For instance, this is the famous verse in the Quran, Surah Al-Tin. Surely we created the human being, insan, in the best constitution. Then we reduced him to the lowest level, except those who believe and do good work. So there is for them a reward unfailing. Now, in this way, Ustaz Nursi also declares that humans have 2 main aspects embedded into their nature. As stated in the Quran also, وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. Both aspects, one good, one evil. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. But then the Quran warns us, try to, clear up the evil aspect. And then, but if you try to cover it up, you will be one of those losers. So in that case, the explanation that Ustaz brings here is one aspect of us that is concerning our ego. That is, it looks to this world, okay, the life in this world. But the other one is concerning worship, ibadat, and servitude to God, but that looks to an eternal life. So in respect to the first aspect, he says, a human being is a wretched creature whose possessions consist of a will which he has only a partial power, of a choice like a hair, of power weak ability to acquire something in this life, of course, which is like a fast, and our life that we have is like a fast dying flame of a lifespan, umur, in other words, which is fleeting brief spell, and of a being which is only a swiftly decaying small body. So because this is all the material aspect, together with this, he is one delicate, weak individual out of the innumerable individuals of the numberless varieties of beings dispersed through the levels of the universe. As you can see, in this aspect, we are very weak, transitory, material, has no value at all. The value is reduced to the level of the matter, whatever it is, but that is also transient. It passes away. On the other hand, we have another aspect, human beings, another aspect, the second one. So in respect of the second aspect, it refers to his impotence and poverty, yet at the same time turn towards worship. A human has truly great breadth and vast importance. For the all-wise Creator has included in man's nature an infinitely vast impotence and boundlessly huge poverty, so that he can be an extensive mirror containing the innumerable manifestations of an all-powerful and compassionate one, whose power is infinite, and all-generous, all-rich one, whose wealth is boundless. So in this second aspect, we are very powerful. Not that we have the power, but actually the Creator on whom we rely has this infinite power. So this aspect becomes the main thing, main principle in human nature that empowers us. So then what is the purpose, in this life? So this is then the case. Man came to this world to be perfected by means of knowledge and supplication, to acquire knowledge and to supplicate. That is part of the ibadat also. In regard to his nature and abilities, everything is tied to knowledge. So obviously, if you don't have knowledge, you won't be able to find out what kind of life you are supposed to live in this world. And the foundation, source, light, and spirit of all knowledge is knowledge of God, ma'rifatullah. And its essence and basis is belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is then the main conclusion. Based on this, it is possible to refer to four aspects of human beings in that case. One aspect that is looking to this world is actually the animality, because in this first aspect, our nature is built upon the basic requirements of life. That is our biological needs, eating, sheltering, defense, and so on. In the second one, which the Quran refers to as Bashariya, Bashar, as Bashar, which is extremely difficult to translate into English. So the only translation I found, Homo sapiens, that probably comes close, not exactly the same, but it comes close. In this aspect, is based upon potentialities of humanity, such as emotions, intelligence. At this level, emotions are very active and have no limitations. So we don't become actual human being at this level. And in the third one only, the third aspect, the insaniya aspect, the authentic human. the authentic human, in this aspect, according to Ustaz Nursi, when he begins to use his intellect actively, and therefore his intelligence is not merely potential, but fully active, and therefore the main guide in this life. And then to decide, make decisions, but don't stop there. Why? Because there is another nature, another aspect that is given to us is the spirituality, this spiritual aspect, which may be expressed as malakiya. That is the term that comes very close. It is the angelic nature. So when the intellect, our mind, in other words, is guided by a divine revelation, then his spiritual nature also becomes active. You know, Ustaz Nursi has an excellent hermeneutics, analogical hermeneutics to explain this. This means tamthil, actually, to give some metaphors on the basis of which the human aspects, our nature, can be explained fully. So I would like to read that also very briefly. So an authentic human being is the one who turns her face to the heart, spirit, intellect, and even the imagination and other subtle faculties, lata'if, given to one towards eternal life, and for each to be occupied with the particular duty of worship worthy of it. So all of these faculties are given to us to be utilized for certain purposes, and therefore they should not depart from those purposes. So being an authentic human is not, as the people of misguidance imagine, to plunge into the life of this world in all its minute details, and in order to taste every sort of pleasure, even the basest ones, make subject to the evil commanding soul all the subtle faculties and the heart and intellect, and make them assist it. To do this is not progress, it is decline, actually. So that means the human nature at this level is reduced to the lowest of the law, the animality, in other words. So he says then, I saw this fact in a vision. He saw this in a vision, which is described in this following comparison. He says, I was entering a large town when I looked and I saw it was full of large palaces. Entering into a town, a small city, and then, but you see in it so many big palaces. At the doors of some of these palaces was merrymaking like a brilliant theater. It captured and held everyone's attention and was entertaining them. I looked carefully and saw that the lord of such a palace had come to the door, and he was playing with a dog and assisting the merrymaking, entertaining those people, in other words. Then the ladies were indulging in sweet conversation with ill-mannered youths. Grown-up girls were organizing the children's games, and the doorkeeper had taken the role of directing the others. So the doorkeeper had become the ruler. I then realized that the inside of the huge palace was completely empty. Its refined duties all remained undone. The morals of its inhabitants had declined, so that they had taken on these roles at the door. So they all have taken on the wrong roles, not their actual duty. I passed on until I came to another large palace. I saw that there was a faithful dog stretched out at the door, and a stern and taciturn doorkeeper. It had an undistinguished appearance. I was curious. Why was the other the way it was, and this palace like this? Why are they so different? So then he says, because of this, I was wondering, I went inside the palace. Then I saw that The inside was very merry. Apartment over apartment, the people of the palace were busy with their different refined duties. The men in the first apartment were overseeing the administration and running of the palace. In the apartment over that, girls were teaching the children. Above that, the ladies were occupied with fine arts and beautiful embroideries. And on the top floor, the Lord was exchanging news with the king and was busy with his own elevated duties in order to maintain the people's tranquility and his own attainments and progress. They did not stop me since I was not visible to them and I was able to wander around. Then I came out and looked around. Everywhere in the town were these two sorts of palaces. I asked about this and they told me the palaces were
fixing. Here, I try to make a list. Indonesia has purchased Sinovac. Bahrain has purchased vaccine made by Pfizer BioNTech. Saudi Arabia has also purchased Pfizer BioNTech. Turkey, Sinovac. Malaysia, AstraZeneca and Sinovac. Kuwait, Pfizer BioNTech. UAE, Sinopharm. And Egypt, Sinopharm. These are some Muslim countries that have purchased vaccine from a number of non-Muslim countries. Okay, what does this fact mean? All vaccines used by both Muslim and non-Muslim countries are produced by non-Muslim companies. This indicates that Muslim countries are merely consumers. Let me repeat one more. This indicates that Muslim countries are merely consumers of non-Muslim technology. Up to now, there has been no COVID-19 vaccine produced by any Muslim country. To the best of my knowledge, Indonesia, through BioFarm, is in the process of producing its own vaccine, which is due to launch at the middle of 2021. Okay, this is an interpretation of the list of vaccines that have been bought by Muslim countries. Next, vaccine production by non-Muslim companies and its use by Muslim countries clearly indicate the problems of the place and roles of science in contemporary Muslim society. Undoubtedly, science has not been able to help the Muslim respond to such serious problems as COVID-19. Unlike the periods when the glorious scientific achievements of Muslim scholars of the past flourished, this whole thing results from the absence of the culture of science in contemporary Muslim life. Okay, next. Okay, let's look at Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates have poured vast amounts of money into science and technology, but the research output has not matched the state-of-the-art facility. The prevailing mentality continues to be that of buying science and technology rather than producing it. Then, without a scientific culture, a country can only consume and trade. Pakistan, for example, functioned as a nation, and shopkeepers, property dealers, managers, wholesalers, accountants, bankers, soldiers, politicians, and general. There are even few good poets and writers, but there is no Pakistani COVID vaccine. Pakistan hasn't created a COVID vaccine because it's passive consumer of science. Next. So, we have several basic critical questions. Are contemporary Muslims open to science? To what extent have the contemporary Muslims developed the principles of rationality, creativity, the search for truth, freedom of thought, freedom to inquire, to challenge, to think, and to envision the unimagined, to question conversion and arbitrate the dispute by evidence? To what extent have the Muslims responded to the challenge of COVID-19? And to what extent has the Muslim science contributed to help eradicate COVID-19? Next. Okay, so we've got problems of science in contemporary Muslim. Muslim countries tend to spend less on scientific research compared to sophisticated buildings and equipment. Where funding has been available, the result in terms of output, such as research paper, citation, patents are disappointingly low. Intolerant social milieu and narrow interpretation of religion seem to dominate public debates. Rationality and evidentiary approach and dissenting voices are forced to be silent. Next. Now, let's look at science in the golden age of Islam. Muslim scholars were the first to hold up the torch of rationality, tolerance, and the advancement of science throughout the dark age of medieval Europe. Centuries before the European scholar Bacon, Descartes, and Galileo, the great thinker of Ibn al-Haytham, 10th century, laid down the rules of the empirical approach through observation, measurement, and conclusion. The purpose of being to search for truth, not support of opinions. Likewise, Ibn al-Nafi, 13th century, stressed the importance of contrarian views through testing evidence and rational analysis. Next. Next, okay. So Islam is not, however, the key problem facing scientific achievement in the Muslim world today. Rather, the low level of achievement results from the cumulative effect of multiple factors and not from a single dominant cause. Anyhow, the contemporary Muslim world has not insisted the strong emphasis they place upon freedom, openness, and diversity as a necessary condition for nurturing science. Okay, these are some points which I am considering important to put forward. And thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor, Associate Professor Zaim Rais, MA. I think the three speakers, I don't know, there are three keywords from the three speakers. The first speaker is the importance of morality to build the high Islamic civilization. And the second speaker, Professor Alparslan, Açıkgenç, tell more about spirituality, the role of spirituality. And the last speaker is tell about the role of science in Islamic civilization. So after listening to the three speakers, we get three keywords: morality, spirituality, and science to build Islamic civilization in the world. Now we have about 5 or 10 minutes to discuss. If there is a question from the participant, please write in the chat or raise your hand. We have 10 minutes before closing. The first question is from Jamaldi. Jamaldi asks about how about the policy of vaccine in Turkey? Yeah, the policy of vaccine in Turkey. Maybe Professor Alparslan or Dr. Ahmet Yildiz. First, answer the question. Okay, Professor Alparslan.
I couldn't understand the question exactly. The policy of Taksim. What does that mean?
COVID-19, yeah, vaccine COVID-19 in Turkey. Okay.
Yeah. Well, right now, of course, in Turkey, all the way from the beginning, our doctors and experts are working to find out, to develop a vaccine for it. But from time to time, I hear that, you know, they're approaching very close to come up with a good one. But it will take time, of course. Now, since in China, I guess they developed it the fastest one, Turkey is importing vaccine from China, and they try to, you know, utilize already. They started using it actually, and they will continue probably with that one. And at the same time, you know, they take some precautions, like on weekends, there is lockdown, we cannot go out. And then during the weekdays, they have some restrictions also at the same time. So at the moment, the government is very much, controlling the problem. We hope that this will be much better. I can see my colleague Ahmet also wants to say something. He raised his hand, so I will give the floor to him also.
Okay, please.
Yeah, Dr. Ahmet.
Ahmet Yildiz. Dr. Ahmet Yildiz. Dr. Ahmed, do you want to say something about the question?
Sometimes they close down the microphone, so they can't. He cannot answer.
Okay. Please, for participant, if there any question, you can ask in the chat or maybe raise hand for one participant. Saya beri kesempatan satu penanya langsung, boleh? Silakan. I'm sorry, Profesor Alparslan, I say bahasa Indonesia. Ya. Okay. Silakan kalau ada peserta yang ingin raise hand, ingin bertanya secara langsung, kita silakan. Okay. Professor Alparslan, actually I have a question. According to Dr. Zaim Rais, science is very important, and I think from side Nursi, I read that the integration of science and religion is very important, especially to build Islamic civilization. Is one factor about Islamic civilization. What do you think about that? Okay, your microphone mute.
Yeah. Can you ask the question again? The sound cut off. I couldn't get it exactly.
Okay. Besides spirituality, from side Nursi perspective, to build the high Islamic civilization, I think the science is very important too. Because if I read some books from Said Nursi, the integration of science and religion is very important to make a high civilization in Islam. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think you are right. It is very important. We just listened to an excellent presentation by Professor Zaim Rais. It was excellent. That emphasis is very good. At one point when I was reading, because Ustaz Nursi thinks that in our time, everything is reduced to science, and therefore Muslims should pay utmost attention to science and scientific progress, scientific knowledge. It's extremely important. But then this scientific knowledge should not be devoid of spirituality. So because of this, he puts equal emphasis that they should be balanced in some way, so that science alone by itself will not lead to humanity to major problems that we are facing today, in environment, global unrest and so on. So that is why I decided to put more emphasis on the spirituality today.
Thank you very much, Professor Alparslan. There's a question from chat. I read COVID-19 in Muslim country today. What is the condition and progress significantly? If we correlate to this theme of the seminar about Islam and civilization. Maybe
yes.
First, okay, please.
Yes, today, the sad part of it is that thinking scientifically, Muslims are not so much successful, unfortunately. Well, you probably heard that these two Turkish doctors working in Germany, they were able to develop the vaccine. But, you know, we would prefer this to be in a Muslim country rather than in Europe. Why? Because it is German scientific culture that is really giving them the chance to develop it. It's not us. We should give this chance to our scholars, you know, our scientists to achieve this thing. On the other hand, at least, you know, there is one side of it that Muslim countries were not so much affected by this, you know, vaccine. But I'm sorry, by this virus. So at least, you know, we have something in that respect. As far as I know, I don't know how is the situation in Indonesia, whether, you know, your scientists or doctors are trying to develop a vaccine or not. But in Turkey, there is an active research, very active. We hope that inshallah soon they will be able to develop it also.
Okay, thank you very much. We hope so. We hope that many Muslim countries can produce a vaccine and something like that to overcome this pandemic. Okay.
Yes.
Before closing, I think Dr. Ahmed will say closing remark maybe.
Mohon dijadikan co-host lagi, beliau bisa buka mic-nya. Dijadikan co-host.
Oh begitu. Oh, okay. Silakan dijadikan co-host. Okay. Dr. Ahmed, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Again, Assalamu alaikum. I am on the road to do work. Unfortunately, I want to express my, salam to all participants and say that hopefully we will see the development of vaccine, so-called not Muslim nor native, but a vaccine will produce in the Muslim world. I think Turkey and Indonesia will pioneer this effort, and this will be a good occasion for us to meet the challenge of COVID-19 in the context of the modern Islamic civilization. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ahmed. And Dr. Zaim, Rais, do you want to say something in closing remark before closing?
Okay, thank you. I believe that the COVID-19 pandemic is something that all Muslims should take as a learning process. We have serious problem in terms of scientific achievements. As Professor Dr. Alparslan has just already said, we have problem with science in almost Muslim countries, not only Turkey, not only Indonesia. I think most rich Muslim countries have the same problem. Science has not been developed as we expect, and we are still left behind the West. Yes, I'm glad to know from Prof. Dr. Alparslan just now, and I read about it last night, that the vaccine produced by Pfizer, BioNTech, actually is found by a Muslim couple from Turkey. But the two, however, work in German company, not in Muslim country. So it cannot be represent the interest of Muslim country, however. So I think let's take, a learning process from this pandemic, that all Muslim countries should be serious in tackling, in managing, and in developing science. These are the most important things that that I think all Muslim countries take. There are three things should be developed: openness, tolerance, and freedom. These three things are very important to develop continuously in all Muslim countries. I think that's all I consider to be important to share with you. Thank you very much for giving me time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Dr. Zaim Rais. And next, maybe Professor Alparslan, 1 minute remark before closing.
Okay. I would like to thank the organizers and especially the Honorable Rector, Professor Dr. Putra Wirman of the State Islamic University, Imam Bonjol, Padang, and all those who sent, they had their efforts for this, and our chairman, Dr. Zulfis, and our participants also, and I would like to send our greetings, and we pray for you, for your safety, for our safety, and at the same time we pray that inshallah with the occasions of these kind of scientific and scholarly conferences, the Muslim world will try to develop themselves in sciences also, and try to find try to catch actually the golden age that we had in the past. So again, thank you very much, and greetings from Turkey to all of you, hoping that inshallah we get over this soon, and then we'll have face-to-face discussions and conferences. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. Thank you very much, Professor. Very, very interesting and enlightened speech. Maybe Dr. Ahmet, 1 minute remark before closing.
Thank you, Professor Zulfi. I think as Professor Zaim referred to, the scientific culture, development of scientific culture is key to the development of a modern Muslim civilization. And I hope we will have this soon in all over the Muslim world, hopefully. I also want to thank you, all the participants, to you and all those who exhibited great effort to organize this event. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
I think it's very interesting. And there are three words, keywords from the three speakers is very important. Morality, spirituality, and science is a base, the foundations to build the Islamic civilization. Ya. Jadi sebelum kita akhiri, I'm sorry, I'm Indonesian. Sebelum kita akhiri, ada 3 kesimpulan besar yang bisa kita tangkap dari ketiga narasumber, dan itu sangat penting sekali dalam membangun peradaban Islam sekarang dan masa akan datang. Ya, meskipun peradaban Islam itu telah mengalami kejayaannya pada abad sebelumnya, tapi 3 poin yang paling penting adalah moralitas yang didasarkan kepada iman, kemudian spiritualitas dengan segala aspeknya, dan pengembangan sains yang lebih kuat lagi di dunia Islam. Itu menjadi modal dasar yang sangat penting jika peradaban Islam ingin menggantikan peradaban Barat yang katakanlah saat ini mulai mengalami kemunduran. Ya. Itu syarat-syarat yang kita dapat dari ketiga narasumber yang luar biasa sekali. Thank you very much for Professor Alparslan, Dr. Ahmet, and Dr. Zaim. And I think we can see in different next, and I think we must close. Before closing, I think Ustad Hasbi Sen will say something before closing. Ustad Hasbi, just 1 minute, Ustad Hasbi.
Okay, thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Saya bahas Indonesia aja Bapak ya. Saya menyampaikan terima kasih atas nama Yayasan Nur Semesta dalam penyelenggaraan webinar ini dan peresmian Said Nursi Corner. Semoga keberadaan Said Nursi Corner memberikan manfaat kepada mahasiswa dan atau sivitas akademika di UIN Imam Bonjol dan secara keseluruhan di Padang insya Allah. Dan semua yang hadir di webinar ini mendapatkan manfaat lah dari 3 narasumber kita tadi, dan insya Allah menjadi wasilah juga kita memperdalami khazanah intelektual atau karya-karya Imam Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. Sekali lagi saya ucapkan terima kasih. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Okay. Terima kasih Ustadz Hasbisen. Thank you very much Prof. Alparslan, Dr. Ahmet, and Dr. Rais. Kita akhiri sesi seminar webinar internasional webinar sore ini. Mudah-mudahan apa yang telah kita laksanakan tadi mendapatkan berkah dari Allah Subhanahu wa taala, dan kita bisa sama-sama mengambil manfaatnya dalam memajukan peradaban Islam ke depan di bumi ini. Saya kira saya sebagai moderator, as a moderator, thank you very much sekali lagi. Banyak maaf, apologize me if I have mistakes, and weakness. Thank you very much. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Ya, terima kasih banyak.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Zulfis.
Sama-sama Ustaz Rasbi.
Ya, mudah-mudahan ini pertama tapi bukan terakhir ya. Kita bisa buat acara lagi.
Insyaallah.
Thank you, Dr. Zulfis. Selamat.
Terima kasih.
Selamat.
Ya,
Pak Dr. Zaim Rais. Hey.
Oh, ini dari Pak Munir.
Thank you.
Pak Munir,
Ya.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Munir. Mantap.
Nanti berikutnya dengan Bandung ya, UIN Bandung Pak ya.
Thank you.
Ya, UIN Bandung, siap.
Insyaallah.
Insyaallah Ustaz.
Insyaallah.
Iya.
Luar biasa Kang Munir.
Woi, mantap.
Pak Munir.
Sama Prof Zaim. Prof Zaim, salam.
Ya. Beliau mendengar tuh.
Halo.
Ini sehat ya?
Alhamdulillah sehat.
Sehat ya. Bagaimana di Bandung sekarang nih?
Bandung biasa, tetap dingin.
Aduh, tetap dingin ya.
Iya.
Aduh, kapan Bandung mengundang lagi gitu?
Oh siap. Ini nunggu izinan nih.